Welcome back everyone to Mona's Take. I am your host Monadrose, and we're here to talk about everything reality TV. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything I have coming up. Alright guys, welcome back. We are covering the last 24 hours or so of the live feeds. Big Brother. Sorry this video is so late. I've been having a hell of a time today with my arm. Hence, I am coming to you guys all natural. So, we're going to pick up where we left off on the Big Brother live feeds. People are acting on a whole nother level on that. So can't wait to see that karma train coming through. Choo-choo. Mood of the day. Really? You got to give us more credit than that. Some people, buckle up, buttercup. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Taylor tells Brittany that she's going up on the block and that Monty wants to test Brittany to see if Brittany will get with Turner and try to vote out Taylor instead of Alyssa. Taylor tells her that Monty thinks she will go after him next week and that she threatened him and that he didn't like that. Brittany said, I told him facts, that if he put you up, he shows that he's not with us to the final three, and I would act accordingly next week. She said, I don't consider that as a threat. I consider it facts. I was just telling him, if you're willing to put her up, then there's no way that you can be with us to the final three. Taylor tells her that one of them has to win HOH next week for both of them to stay. Brittany said, Turner will take a shot at Monty. What is he thinking? I don't understand it. Is there something that I'm not seeing? And Taylor tells Brittany that they have to lay low, very, very low this week, and not to keep badgering Monty, or she might go home. The next conversation we see is between Monty and Turner. Monty just told Turner that a final three with him, Turner, and Taylor is more of an even playing field. And with two of us, we have stuff on our resume that we can beat Taylor if it ends up with her at the end with either of us. Can you please tell me how that's an even playing field? Monty, who has 4 comp wins, or 3 comp wins. Turner, who has 3 comp wins. Brittany has 3 comp wins. How is it more of an even playing field for Monty to go up against Turner and Taylor versus Taylor and Brittany? Make this make sense to me. He also says that Taylor has lost all trust with Brittany, and it's not like she likes her as a person, but she thinks she can beat Brittany. That's neither truthful either. She does think she can beat Brittany, but I also think that she thinks she can beat Monty. So I don't think that that's an issue. Taylor still likes Brittany as a person, and Brittany and Taylor are still friends no matter how much Monty wants to convince Turner that that's not so. I have no idea what Monty is hearing in these conversations, but every time he repeats one, it's so far off from what is actually said. For someone that said he didn't lie well, he's actually doing a hell of a job today. It's like every single conversation that he had with Brittany or Taylor by the time it got back to Turner was completely different than the conversation that was actually had. Turner said, I can also have a conversation with Brittany to see if we're still good for the final 2. So she will flip another bullshit story to use against her. And I'll see what I can get out of her and make up a lie. I think he misspoke there, and I don't think that, I'm hoping that Monty didn't catch it. because if he did, he's in on it too. But what he said was, and let me repeat this, so she will flip another bullshit story against Taylor to see what I can get out of her to make up a lie. Monty said, that would be perfect, bro. He said, right now, unfortunately, Taylor is one of those people, like, I think she's thinking logically about it, but at the same time, when someone is playing this dirty, you can't trust whatever move they are going to make. She could, in some case, who knows, if somehow I was HOH and she valued that final two with you, she could vote to keep you over Taylor. Do we ever see that happening? Do we see Brittany choosing Turner over Taylor? Come on. He said, that's just the type of person she is. I think she's willing to do anything to benefit her game. But isn't that what Turner and Monty are doing? That they're doing whatever's possible so that they can benefit their game? I really, really hope, after seeing everything that's happened the last couple of days, that Brittany wins HOH. That would throw such a wrench into their plans. And I'm here for it. Monty and Taylor talk. Monty says to Taylor, you're starting to worry me because you're being too quiet. She said, I don't think I have been so upset about someone entertaining putting me on the block as this one. Monty said, it's fine either way, but is it directed at me or just the situation in general? Taylor said, I think you're just asking me to trust more people to save me, when if you trust me, I can just show you in one action. I get the risk at the fear, but I don't like that you are putting me in danger when you can save me. And I don't like that you're putting me in danger when I can just show you the trust straight up. Monty said, that's fair. You brought that point up earlier, and I didn't really consider all that. So I'm not going to sit here and say that it was on my mind. And I said, wow, that's a new thought. And I could have gone that route. My mistake is not approaching that first. Monty said, everything I've been hearing about the situation for this week and what would be ideal, I think that it's centered very much around Turner leaving, which I would be fine with. I don't have any issues with that. But now that Brittany is in a position where she is safe, she is continuously lying to me and continuing to say things that are just... I just had this whole session where we were making fun of that conversation because of how mob boss it sounded like. It would have behooved you to put Turner up. So, like, it's not... It's more around if he's up there and you guys think this is your opportunity to get him out. In my head, it's like, why wouldn't y'all take that shot? At this point, if the girls do not see that Monty is working with Turner, they are stupid, dumb, ignorant. Brittany keeps saying they're working together. Taylor won't see it. Then Monty convinces Brittany that it's not so, that they're not working together. And it's clear. It's clear as day that he's protecting Turner. Taylor, what did Turner do to build more trust with you than I did? Monty, I'm not trusting him more. It's just the situation, this decision. Taylor, when all that stuff happened, Michael and Brittany went to Turner. And he said, after knowing everything, I'll put Kyle up, but I still want Taylor to be my target. Monty said, well, that was his initial reaction. What was my first initial reaction? was that I didn't want to get him out that week, that I wanted to wait till the next week and then use it to get him out. Monty's working really a lot of overtime to convince Taylor that Turner's a good choice for the final 3. Monty tells Taylor that he hasn't heard anything from Turner that he would target Taylor. What about the conversation he just had upstairs or outside with Turner, where Turner was trying to convince Monty to keep Alyssa over Taylor and how it would be better? And Taylor said, all right, what about you being the backup target when they were supposed to vote Kyle out? When Michael taking Brittany off the block, Monty was supposed to go up in Brittany's place before all the Kyle stuff came out. And Monty said, yeah, he admitted Kyle was pushing for that, and everyone from Direfest was probably pushing for that as well. He said, it does not feel so good to know that, but since that time, his actions have shown that I can trust him. That's only been 2 weeks, right? But since that time, he's shown that he can trust Turner. In 2 weeks' time, Turner had a final 2 with Kyle that he didn't know about. Kyle was actively working against him. He didn't know about that. Turner was actively working against him. He didn't know about that. But in the last 2 weeks, Turner's been spot on. Oh. Turner joins the combo. Taylor says to Turner, if I go up, are you going to vote to keep me in the house? And he says, definitely. And she says, you're not lying to me again, right? Turner, no. Like my brain is scrambled eggs right now. I'm totally fine. And then he says, I'm totally fine. Like Alyssa's my best friend in the house, but I'm totally fine sending her home. That means us 3 will make it to the final 3. And Brittany is probably pitching a final 3 to everyone in the house, depending on who she's talking to, who's convenient for her. I think us 3 can make it to the end, and if that means sending Alyssa out, then I'm all in. They agree, and Taylor said we should name it Guy's Girl. Then Taylor says, this is shit what I'm doing with you two, what I'm signing up for, and y'all know it. And Taylor and Turner laughs and says, and we love you for it. Turner says that he thinks Brittany will pitch to keep Alyssa. They're doing everything they can to keep putting that wedge of distrust between Taylor and Brittany. Because Brittany, winning winning veto, is now going to the Final 4. So they're trying to do whatever they can to still poison Taylor to Brittany, or Brittany to Taylor. Turner tells Taylor his plan to trip Brittany up. I think that's a mistake on his part, because I think that Taylor may give Brittany a heads up and tell her what Turner's planning on doing, and to make sure that she does not have any private conversations with him. And Turner is still pitching, keeping Alyssa and sending Taylor out the door. And I keep hoping that Monty will see that before he puts her up tomorrow, or today, but he won't. Because he doesn't care. His final 2 is with Turner, and whatever gets those 2 to at least the final 3, he doesn't care. Anybody else can ride along. He would prefer it to be Taylor, but if it's Alyssa, so be it. Turner said, taking out Taylor this week will take out a potential competitor. Monty said that's fair, and we also have to get her head squared away about Brittany. I think the more we talk about it, the more she realizes Brittany is all over the place. I think she thinks Brittany won't come after her next week. And he's like, yeah, but that's a fair thought, dude. That's a fair thought. Turner says, it has nothing to do with the fact that I'm friends with Alyssa. Or not, honestly. I just like it if the most important thing is for me or you to win these comps. And adding someone else into the mix who can win a comp, is that beneficial to us? Because I think me versus you versus Brittany is not a question. Adding Taylor to that just adds another element. Then he says, we have to win one of those two comps next week. So adding someone who is a good competitor, is that good for our game? I don't think so. Monty, the worst case scenario is that Brittany wins HOH because she's the target for next week. He said if Brittany wins HOH, she's going to the final three regardless. And the next conversation that we see is between Monty, Taylor, and Brittany. They all go up to the HOH room. This conversation did not go the way that I thought it would go. And it was a 2-hour conversation. As soon as Monty tells Brittany to go get Taylor for this conversation, Alyssa's been laying in bed all day. She's been sleeping all flipping day. But as soon as Brittany goes down there and gets Taylor and they walk out, she pops up out of bed. Didn't even put her microphone or anything on. She follows them, hears them going upstairs, and she goes and sits in the kitchen. Then she goes and wakes up Turner and tells Turner that Taylor and Brittany just went upstairs to meet with Monty. He's half asleep. And he's like, okay, whatever. Well, he doesn't wake up. So Brittany and Taylor lay out the plan going forward to get them to the final three. I don't think Monty is even actively listening because he is so turned off by Brittany. He's so ready to get Brittany out of the house. He doesn't believe anything she says. So he's just there. Melissa comes up, not even 5 minutes after them being up there. Melissa comes up and knocks on the door to go in. And Monty said, can you give us some time? So he asked her to leave. Well, that sends her in a whirlwind. She goes and gets back in bed for a little while. And then she gets up and she does some baking and everything else, trying to keep her mind off of what they're talking about upstairs. Monty says that he knows by making a deal with Turner to vote out Alyssa that he'll do so because he's keeping Turner off the block. So he's saying, if I keep you off the block, you have to make sure to vote out Alyssa. And he has every faith that Turner will do that. Monty tells Brittany he doesn't trust her anymore because she threatened him yesterday, and that there is no reason they should not trust him. He throws in her face that she kept asking if he has a final two with Turner, and that shows distrust. Well, they actually do have a final two. So the distrust is warranted. Monty calls out Brittany on catching her in several lies and says, all right, scratch all that. Even if we erase all of that, let's talk about you and Michael and the fact that y'all sat on the information and used it at just the right time. He said, why the hell did you and Michael not tell me and Taylor about Kyle during Big Brochella? Like, why wait until Michael wins veto and knows that he's going to be taking you down and that there could be a replacement nominee that would put us in jeopardy to share that information with us? And then he says, what was the thinking behind that? Because I'd really love to get clarity on that situation. Because that seems like another example of things that were discussed that were not discussed with Taylor and I, but were kept solitude with you and Michael until it was beneficial to share that information. I'm very curious about that because it seems along the same lines of the certain things that are going on now. You share with these people and there's certain things you don't. And that seems like another example that you could have shared it. What was the risk of your game of sharing it at that point? He said, I'm just curious. Brittany said, a lot of those conversations I had with Kyle came later. Michael heard them during his HOH and his one-on-ones with Kyle. I didn't hear those things until the end of Taylor's HOH, right before going into Brochella. She said she discussed it with Michael and said, how did that strike you? And I wasn't sure, and I wanted to gut check to make sure that what I was thinking was true before I said anything. She said, I have one more conversation with Kyle, and then he's outside and not here to discuss it. She said, Michael and I discussed it once we knew the ramifications of saying something like that and him not being able to discuss it or defend himself. She said, we wouldn't want to do it before comps or noms. And I'll probably look back and have to answer for not speaking up sooner. I hope you know the timing was not good for any of us. And no matter when I said it, then it wouldn't have been good. She said you can trace it back to Michael. He made Turner the promise that he wouldn't put him up the following week. Then he didn't put him up the following week. And then the following week, Turner got HOH and got Michael out. And Taylor chimes in and says, it didn't matter who won HOH that week. We were all going after Michael. Taylor said, I see it. And then the feed's cut. Freaking CBS. Comes back on and Taylor says the only factor in Michael going home is he was just that good. And that's the bottom line. He was that good of a competitor, we had to get rid of him. And so Monty's talking about Michael and Brittany having private conversations and faulting her for not communicating those private conversations to him. He's been having the same conversations with Turner that he's not relaying to Taylor. What's the difference? Taylor's supposed to be your closest ally in the game, but you're keeping secrets from her that Turner told you. So I don't see how he can get off just being so condescending about the fact that Brittany has lied to him and not included him in these conversations when he's doing the same exact thing. Taylor finally chimes in and says, as far as the relationship with the two of you, Monty and Brittany, separately, I'm very frustrated that in my relationship with you and Michael, I found myself sitting on the block on eviction night because of someone else's decisions. I'm the pawn again. I'm the collateral damage again. And with what could play out tomorrow, she starts talking to Monty, and with what can play out tomorrow, I'm sitting on the block again, having to trust someone who has put me in jeopardy multiple times. To commit to a word when they have said a word and gone back on it. I just need the both of you to understand how I am livid about having to continue to be put in that position 5 times in this game now, and I'm still choosing to trust both of you. After everything, you two need to understand that when I tell you in my separate relationships with both of you, that regardless of what's going on, I still choose to be true to both of you. She says, I've been the person to assume the most risk out of the 3 of us continuously, and it cannot be understated how intense that is, and how much I don't show the emotion of that. And Brittany said, I'm sorry that you're in this position because of the things that have happened and how they have been perceived. I understand where you're coming from, Monty. I understand. Can I just ask you one question? Brittany said, do you trust me or not? Or is it just too far gone for us? And Monty said, at this point, it might be. I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know what could change outside of just there's been some irreversible damage done. That conversation yesterday was the most frustrating conversation I've ever had with anybody in this house since I've been here. I've seen him have some pretty intense conversations, and I won't name any names, but okay. He says, like, to get threatened and then to be blamed for not sharing information that I heard about you with you, that you should have shared that information with me ahead of time. Taylor, the fact of the matter, you're both here next week, and I've done everything I can to unite the two of you. But I can't super glue this triangle together. She said, from what I'm seeing in this conversation, all last week I tried to bring us together to unite us. I'm sad I've done what I can, but both of you are still here next week. And I, again, am faced with sitting on the block and being vulnerable not to be here next week. I still trust both of you. When you tell me you will keep me here, we will see what Turner does on that. And that will tell a lot going into next week. But it does seem like at this point, the only way the three of us can make it to the final three is if either me or Brittany wins HOH and chooses to take you. And, you know, I'm always choosing you both. So next week, it's a power grab to secure our own safety. That's what I'm taking away from this conversation. And Monty goes back to Brittany again and says, you've questioned me about Turner when there's been nothing that would suggest, so why do I have to prove it to you? Well, Monty is working with Turner. So I say call her out on the things that she is doing. That's one thing. But to be condescending and to tell her with your righteous indignation that there is absolutely no reason on earth that she should ever suspect that you and Turner are working together, when you are, that just goes up my ass sideways. I'm sorry. There's game, and then there's this crap, and I don't think this should be game. Everybody lies to everybody, especially in this point in the game. There's 5 individuals left in that house. Nobody is being honest with nobody. Monty's not telling Turner about the conversations he's having with Taylor. Monty's not telling Taylor about the conversations he's having with Turner. Alyssa and Turner are having conversations that Turner's not telling Monty about. Brittany and Taylor are having conversations that Taylor's not telling Monty about. It just goes round and round. Don't be so damn condescending when it is the game. That's my little rant for that. Brittany says, so if you're not working with me, then that means that you're actively coming after me next week. What am I supposed to do? Who am I supposed to be working with? I guess no one. I am truly by myself. Monty starts laughing at her and says, Brittany, you're so smart. You and Michael are so smart, so calculated. Like, I can't sit here and think that you didn't entertain that you didn't intend to say exactly what you said in exactly the manner that you said it to me yesterday. You told me if I do not put her up this week, and I am deciding that if you're the deciding vote next week, that you would take that into consideration. So how is that not a threat? Monty says, what other way do you take that? It's a threat. I don't appreciate being spoken to like that. When I'm sitting here having an open dialogue, I didn't tell you one way or the other what I was going to do. He says, you are insulting my intelligence, and I wouldn't have known any of this if Turner hadn't have brought it to my attention. So now Brittany is to blame for what Joseph said, because that was another question that was asked. Is how would Turner know that me and how would he know that me and Michael and you and Taylor had a Final Four? How would he know that unless you told him? Because Taylor didn't tell him and I didn't tell him. No, but that's something that they talked about outside when Joseph was still in. And he said, I guarantee you those four in there are making a Final Four. So now she's being blamed for that as well, on top of everything that she created for herself. That goes to show one little conversation can turn your whole game around. If she had not had that conversation with Turner in the bathroom, none of this will be happening. And I did pull back some old tapes to actually listen, because I thought she told Michael the next morning about her conversation in the storage room. So I went back to YouTube and I found someone who actually had clips of it, and I watched it. And she did tell Michael everything that was said in that conversation, and she was getting information for Michael so that he could make a choice on what he was going to do with the replacement nominee. He wanted to talk to everybody to see if he could gauge who was lying to him. And he was going to use the information that Brittany gave him from the conversation that she had with Turner. So she did have that conversation with Michael. All at once, Brittany gets up, she leaves. The conversations start between Taylor and Monty. Now, we've had the feeds on this conversation for 2 hours in this room. As soon as Brittany leaves and Taylor and Monty start talking, they cut the damn feeds away. Again, damn it, CBS, let us hear what's going on. Alyssa tells Turner that the last time she went upstairs that Monty asked her to leave. So he's like, well, I'll go up there and see what's going on. So he goes up there and Monty asks him to leave as well because he's still talking to Taylor. So he walks back downstairs and looks at Alyssa and says, same. Alyssa tells Turner that she went up there 2 hours ago and that she's been outside by herself. Turner tells her that Brittany's in her bed with her head covered up. At this point, if Taylor cannot see that Monty is protecting Turner, because he's in the position where if he takes Turner, and this is his game, and it's a good game move, if Monty takes Turner and Taylor, then either one of those two win, he's going to the final two. Because Taylor's going to choose him and Turner's going to choose him. But in the same sense, if it's Taylor, Monty, and Brittany, Taylor's going to choose, I don't know who Taylor would choose, but Monty would choose Taylor and Brittany would choose Taylor. So they're both in the same position, but with different people, which is causing some dysfunction. And after all of that. After they spent 2 hours in there discussing this, and him reaming out Brittany for lying to him and not including him in conversations. After all that, he is upstairs convincing Taylor of all the reasons that he's not working with Turner. And he's going through a diatribe. He didn't know Turner had a final two with Kyle. Kyle was part of Dire Fest and came in, and why would he trust him after that? He was going to put Monty on the block as a replacement. Monty's going through all kinds of bullshit to convince Taylor that he is not working with Turner, and has told her that he would pick her over Turner any day. If that's the case, she wouldn't be going up on the block today. He's choosing Turner over her. So what the hell does she think he's going to do in a final two? I don't think he'd choose Taylor. I think he'd choose Turner. So we'll see how this week plays out. I imagine that Taylor will be the replacement nominee today. I imagine that Turner will work actively all week to try to get Monty to change his mind about voting out Taylor. I see him trying to set Brittany up again sometime this week, concerning the Taylor-Alyssa vote. I see probably more chaos at some point during the week. But I eventually see Alyssa going home. So I think our final four will be Monty, Taylor, Brittany, and Turner. And if Brittany does not win the HOH or the veto, she will go home, and our final three will be Monty, Turner, and Taylor. And in that sense, our final two would be Monty and Turner. So we'll see how my predictions go throughout the week. But that's about all I have for you guys tonight. Sorry about the all natural, but I wanted to get the information out to you guys and let you know what was going on. So until tomorrow, as always, you guys have a great day. And as always, much love.